My dad pushed me into the fountain at my sister's wedding. Everyone laughed, until my hidden husband arrived carrying a billion-dollar legacy. You know that moment when your whole life, everything you've ever been told about yourself, crashes down around you, but instead of breaking, you just smile? Because in that exact second, submerged and humiliated, you realize your world is about to flip, and everyone who ever doubted you is about to get a shock they'll never forget. That's precisely what happened when my own father, on my sister's wedding night, shoved me, his daughter, right into the fancy hotel fountain. Water was gushing, mascara was streaming, and I was soaked to the bone. But I wasn't crying. Oh no. I stood there, a knowing, almost defiant smile on my face. Because in just 20 minutes, that family, the one still laughing at my public spectacle, was going to finally learn exactly who I really was. And who I had married. All those whispers, the chuckles, the pointed fingers? They were about to be silenced forever. Growing up in the opulent Campbell household of Boston was like living in a gilded cage. Our 5-bedroom colonial on Beacon Hill screamed success, but behind those pristine doors, it was a different story. For as long as I can remember, I was compared to my sister, Isolde. She was 2 years younger, yet always the radiant center of attention. My parents, Robert and Patricia Campbell, seemed to have "Why can't you be more like your sister?" playing on a loop throughout my entire childhood. My father, a prominent business attorney, was obsessed with appearances. My mother, a former beauty queen turned socialite, never missed an opportunity to remind me I wasn't enough. I could bring home straight A's, but Isolde would have straight A's plus extracurriculars. I'd win second place in a science competition, only for it to be utterly overshadowed by Isolde's latest dance performance. It was relentless. "Brionna, stand up straight. No one will take you seriously with that posture," my mother would tell me when I was just 12, while happily placing a hand on Isolde's shoulder. "Isolde has natural grace." On my 16th birthday, my father raised a glass, and for a fleeting moment, I actually thought, maybe this time, it's for me. Instead, he proudly announced Isolde's admission to a prestigious summer program at Yale. My birthday cake? It was forgotten, still in the kitchen. College offered no relief. While I was at Boston University, working a part-time job and achieving a 4.0 GPA, my parents rarely showed up for my events. But they'd travel 3 states to see every single one of Isolde's Juilliard performances. At my own college graduation, my mother's first words were a tight-lipped smile as she said, "At the very least, you're being realistic about your prospects in criminal justice." Meanwhile, Isolde was lauded for following her passion with her arts degree. It was 1,000 paper cuts that continued well into adulthood. Every family vacation felt like an endurance test, every accomplishment diminished, every mistake magnified. But something shifted during my second year at the FBI Academy in Quantico. I decided to build emotional distance. I stopped sharing details about my life. I declined holiday invites. I built walls around myself, taller than our grand family home. And the irony? My career absolutely thrived. I discovered my calling in counterintelligence, quickly ascending the ranks with a sharp analytical mind and unwavering drive. By 29, I was leading specialized operations my family knew absolutely nothing about. I met Cashin Reed while working on a challenging multinational case. Not in the field, as you might imagine, but at a cybersecurity conference where I was representing the agency. Cashin wasn't your typical tech entrepreneur. He transformed Reed Technologies from a college dorm room idea into a global security behemoth worth billions. His systems safeguarded governments and corporations against growing threats. Our connection was instant, surprising. Here was someone who saw me clearly, without the distorted prism of my family's past. Our romance was intense, sandwiched between my covert operations and his worldwide business empire. "I've never met anyone like you," Cashin told me on our third date, walking along the Charles River late one night. "You're extraordinary, Brionna. I hope you know that." Those words, simple but so real, gave me more validation than I'd received in decades of family life. We married 18 months later in a private ceremony, witnessed only by my closest coworker, Evander, and Cashin's sister, Eliza. Our decision to keep it clandestine wasn't solely for security, it was my choice to keep this vital part of my life free from my family's toxicity. For 3 years, we built our life together, maintaining separate public personas. Cashin traveled extensively, and my position at the FBI advanced until I was appointed the youngest deputy director of counterintelligence operations. Which brings us back to my sister's wedding, 6 months ago. The invitation arrived in Boston, gold and dripping with presumption. Isolde was marrying Leander Wellington IV, heir to a banking fortune. The evening promised to be the kind of extravagant exhibition my parents absolutely adored. Cashin was poised to close a significant security deal in Tokyo. "I can reschedule," he offered, seeing my hesitation. "No," I insisted. "This is too important for Reed Tech. I'll be fine for one afternoon." He promised, "I'll try to make it back for the reception, even if it's just for the end." So, I found myself driving alone to the Fairmont Copley Plaza Hotel, my stomach clenching with every mile. I hadn't seen much of my family in nearly 2 years. My sleek black Audi, one of the few luxuries I allowed myself, pulled up to the valet. I checked my reflection one last time, a classy emerald green dress, subtle diamond studs, a gift from Cashin, hair in a classic updo. I looked successful, confident, untouchable. I just wished I felt that way inside. For Isolde's wedding, the Fairmont's grand ballroom had been transformed into a floral wonderland. White orchids and roses cascaded from crystal chandeliers. Exactly the kind of extravagant show my folks had always envisioned. I handed my invitation to the usher, who glanced at his list with a small grimace. "Miss Campbell, we have you seated at table 19. This is not the family table, of course." I nodded politely, I'd expected nothing less. My cousin Rebecca spotted me first, her eyes widening slightly before settling into a practiced smile. "Brionna, what a surprise! We weren't sure you'd make it." Her gaze then shifted to my vacant side. "And you came alone?" "I did," I said simply, offering no explanation. "How brave," she replied with fake sympathy. "After what happened with that professor you were dating, what was his name?" "Mom said it was just devastating when he left you for his teaching assistant." It was a complete lie. I'd never dated a professor, let alone been abandoned by one. But this was the Campbell family's specialty, constructing tales that portrayed me as a continuous failure. "Your memory must be confusing me with someone else," I responded quietly. More relatives approached, and the interactions were all the same. Aunt Vivian commented on my practical haircut, saying it was reasonable for a lady in your situation to forego more fashionable options. Uncle Harold inquired loudly if I was still pushing papers for the government and if I'd considered changing careers, because those positions never paid well enough to attract a good husband. My cousin Tiffany, Isolde's maid of honor, approached with air kisses that purposefully avoided my cheeks. "Brionna, it's been a while. I love the dress. Is it from that bargain retailer where you always find great deals?" She didn't wait for an answer. "Isolde was just saying she wasn't sure you'd come, you know, since you missed the bridal shower, the bachelorette weekend, and the rehearsal dinner." Each occasion had coincided with vital, classified operations I couldn't disclose. I had sent beautiful gifts with loving messages. "Work responsibilities," I simply explained. "Right, your mysterious government job." She inserted air quotes around mysterious. "Leander's cousin works for the State Department. He says those administrative roles can be so demanding." I just smiled, letting them believe I was a clerical worker. The truth would have shocked them into silence, but it wasn't mine to disclose yet. Then my mother appeared, resplendent in a pale blue designer gown that likely cost more than a month of my substantial salary. "Brionna, you made it." Her tone suggested I'd completed an arduous journey rather than a simple drive across Boston. "Your sister was concerned you wouldn't come again." "I wouldn't miss Isolde's wedding," I said. Her eyes quickly scanned my appearance for imperfections, found none, and settled on, "That color washes you out." Isolde, now officially Mrs. Wellington, arrived at the reception on the arm of her banker husband. She was undeniably stunning in a custom Vera wine gown with a cathedral train. My father beamed with pride, looking at Isolde as if she were the sun and moon combined. I couldn't remember him ever looking at me that way. The maitre d' directed me to table 19, so far from the main family table that I almost needed binoculars. I was seated with distant cousins, my mother's former college roommate, and several elderly relatives who couldn't quite place who I was. "Are you one of the Wellington girls?" A hard-of-hearing great-aunt squinted at me over thick glasses. "No, I'm Robert and Patricia's daughter," I explained. "Isolde's sister." Her face registered surprise. "Oh, I didn't know there was another daughter." That stunned more than it should have, even after all these years. Dinner proceeded with elaborate courses and flowing champagne. From my distant vantage point, I watched my family holding court at the center table, laughing and celebrating without a glance in my direction. The traditional family photos had been taken earlier, without me. During the maid of honor speech, Tiffany spoke movingly about growing up with Isolde, who was like the sister I never had, pointedly ignoring my existence. The best man joked about Leander joining the Campbell family dynasty and how he was trading up by marrying the Campbell golden child. I kept my cool through it all, sipping water to stay clear-headed. Cashin had texted an hour earlier, landing shortly. Traffic from airport is heavy. When the dancing began, I tried to join a circle of relatives, but they discreetly closed ranks, leaving me on the outside. I retired to a quiet corner, checking my watch. Cashin would be here soon. Just a little longer. My mother approached, champagne flute in hand. "You could at least try to look like you're enjoying yourself," she snarled. "Your perpetual sulking is becoming a topic of conversation." "I'm not sulking, Mother. I'm only observing." "Well, observe with a smile. The Wellingtons are important people, and your sister made an excellent match. Don't embarrass us." As if I were the one being embarrassing. "The least you could have done was bring a date," she continued. "Everyone is asking why you're here alone." I didn't bother explaining that my husband was worth more than the entire Wellington family fortune combined. That revelation would come soon enough. My father tapped his crystal glass for attention as the reception was in full swing. The audience fell silent as he went center stage in front of an impressive ice sculpture. "Today," he started, his voice resonating with the trained projection of a seasoned attorney, "is the proudest day of my life. My lovely Isolde has made a match that goes beyond even a father's wildest dreams." A scattering of approving laughter followed. "Leander," he continued, turning to my new brother-in-law, "you're getting not just a wife, but admittance into a family focused on excellence and achievement." He raised his glass higher. "To Isolde, who has never disappointed us. From her earliest steps to her Juilliard graduation with highest honors and humanitarian foundation work, she has been nothing but a source of pride." My chest tightened, not because I expected to be mentioned, I knew better, but because of the implicit comparison. Isolde had never disappointed them, and the unspoken conclusion about me was painfully obvious. As he continued extolling Isolde's virtues, I quietly slipped away toward the terrace doors, needing air, space, and a moment to regroup before Cashin arrived. The evening sun was sinking over the hotel's famed courtyard fountain, casting golden light across the rippling water. I was almost to the sanctuary of the terrace when my father's voice boomed from behind me. "Leaving so soon, Briona?" I slowly turned. He stood 10 feet away, microphone still in hand, the entire reception now looking in our direction. My mother and Isolde flanked him, identical stares of disdain on their flawless faces. "Just getting some air," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Running away." "Classic Briona," he said, and the microphone amplified his remarks to the entire audience. "Disappearing when family commitments become inconvenient." A rush of heat rose up my neck. "That isn't true, is it?" His voice had taken on the cross-examination tone I remembered from childhood. "You've missed half of the wedding events. You arrived alone, without even the decency of bringing a companion." The room had fallen utterly silent. "I'm sorry if my being alone bothered you," I added gently. "She couldn't even find a date," my father declared to the audience, eliciting uncomfortable laughter. 32 years old and no prospects in sight. Meanwhile, your sister has secured one of Boston's most eligible bachelors. His theatrics brought even more laughs. "Dad," I murmured quietly. "This isn't the time or place." "It's exactly the time and place," he retorted, advancing toward me. "This is a celebration of success, of family achievement, something you would know nothing about." Each word was a calculated barb, designed to penetrate years of carefully constructed armor. I looked at my mother and sister, hoping for any sign of intervention. They simply watched, my mother with a stiff smile, Isolde with scarcely veiled joy. "Do you think we don't know why you're really alone? Why are you hiding behind that mystery government job?" my father added. "You've always been envious of your sister's accomplishments. Always a disappointment. Always a failure." "Dad, please stop," I begged, mindful of the hundreds of eyes on us. "Stop what? Telling the truth? The truth that you've never lived up to your potential and are ashamed to the Campbell name?" His voice rose with each question, and something inside me snapped. Not toward anger, but toward a strange, calm clarity. "You have no idea who I am," I said quietly. "I know exactly who you are," he snarled. Then it happened. His hands touched my shoulders, a forceful shove that caught me completely off guard. I stumbled backward, arms windmilling, but there was nothing to grab onto. For a split second, I felt weightless. Then the shocking cold as I plunged backward into the courtyard fountain. Water engulfed me. My carefully styled hair collapsed. My silk dress billowed, then clung. And my makeup, undoubtedly, ran in rivulets down my face. The physical shock was nothing compared to the realization that my own father had just publicly humiliated me at my sister's wedding. The crowd's reaction came in waves. First, shocked gasps, then uncertain titters, finally erupting into full-throated laughter and even scattered applause. Someone wolf whistled, and another voice called out, "Wet t-shirt contest after the garter toss." More laughter and applause. I pushed myself up, water streaming from my ruined dress, my heels slipping on the fountain's slick bottom as I found my footing. Through dripping strands of hair, I saw my father's triumphant expression, my mother's hand covering a smile, and my sister's undisguised glee. The photographer took picture after picture, capturing my humiliation for posterity. This would be in the wedding album, shared around at future family gatherings, another chapter in the Briona, the failure narrative. But something unexpected happened in that fountain. As the cold water stunned my system, I realized I was done. I stood fully upright, water cascading from my designer dress, pushing back my soaked hair, and looked directly at my father. "Remember this moment," I said, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet courtyard. Not shouting, not emotional, but clear and precise. My father's smile froze. Something in my tone must have registered because worry flickered in his eyes. "Remember exactly how you treated me," I added, edging slowly closer to the fountain's edge. "Remember the decisions you made. Remember what you did to your daughter, because I guarantee you, I will." I got out of the fountain with as much dignity as my wet state permitted. A stunned silence had replaced the laughter, and even my father appeared to be at a loss for words. I remembered a similar public humiliation from high school graduation when my father interrupted my valedictorian speech to loudly comment that memorization had always been Briona's only talent, and the audience had laughed as well. I had shrunk into myself then, becoming smaller. But not this time. I walked through the crowd, water dripping with each step, creating a trail across the expensive carpet. No one stopped me. No one offered help. No one spoke. And strangely, I was fine with that. For the first time in my life, I didn't need anything from these people. When I pushed through the door of the Fairmont's ladies' room, I saw myself in the gold-framed mirror. Mascara streaked, hair plastered to my skull, the emerald dress now a darker forest green, saturated with water. But I didn't feel defeated. Rather, I felt strangely liberated. My phone was in my clutch, which I had thankfully left at table 19 prior to the fountain episode. I grabbed it from a concerned-looking distant relative who had guarded it for me, then returned to the bathroom to text Cashin, "How near are you?" His response was immediate, 20 minutes out, clearing traffic. "Is everything okay?" I hesitated before typing. Dad pushed me into the fountain in front of everyone. 3 dots appeared instantaneously, then disappeared and reappeared. Finally, "I'm coming." 10 minutes. Cashin was always thinking 10 steps ahead and protecting what was important to him, which included me. I had no idea he had already dispatched a security team ahead. The restroom door flew open and a young woman entered. One of Leander's relatives, I assumed. She paused when she saw me. "Oh, are you okay?" "I'm all right," I said, straightening my spine. "Just a little wet." She hovered uncertainly. "Everyone's talking about what happened. It was quite dreadful of your father." Her unexpected friendliness almost shattered my heart. "Thank you for saying that." "I have a spare dress in my car," she offered. "It might be a little big, but—" "That's really nice," I said, "but I have a change of clothes in my car." A professional habit. Always have backup plans. "Could you accompany me to the valet?" "I'd rather not wade through the crowd alone." "Of course," she answered. "My name is Maris, Leander's step-cousin from his mother's second marriage. Essentially, the Wellington family aberration." "Brionna," I replied, offering my dripping hand. "The Campbell family scapegoat." Maris laughed as we made our way through a side exit to the valet stand. "A pleasure to meet you." That brief moment of connection helped me stay calm. I collected my backup wardrobe from the Audi's trunk, a modest black sheath dress and flats I kept for emergencies. After 10 minutes in a neighboring washroom, I had transformed myself from drowned rat to pretty acceptable professional. As I applied fresh makeup, I reflected on my real life, not the distorted version my family saw. I had graduated from Quantico at the top of my class, led operations that saved American lives, earned the respect of hardened field agents and Washington officials alike, and married a brilliant, kind man who valued me exactly as I was. None of that validation had come from the people now celebrating in the ballroom. And maybe that was the point. True worth is only found beyond the funhouse mirrors of poisonous family relationships. I checked my watch. Cashin would arrive any minute. And for the first time, I was ready to stop disguising our connection. Not because I wanted my family to be impressed that Ship had sailed into the fountain with me, but because I was tired of lowering myself to make them comfortable. My phone vibrated with a text message from Cashin, in position. I took a deep breath, straightened my new dress, and headed back toward the reception with my head up and shoulders back. Maris had returned to her table, but she flashed me an encouraging thumbs up as I passed. The celebrations had resumed during my absence. The dance floor was crowded, the bar was busy, the cake was waiting to be cut. No one noticed me right away, allowing me to position myself strategically near the main entrance. I spotted my mother first, holding court with several of her socialite friends. Gesturing animatedly. As I got closer, her words became clear. "It's always been difficult. We've tried everything with her, absolutely everything. The best schools, the best therapists. Some people simply refuse to thrive." "Such a shame," said one of her acquaintances. "Especially with Isolde being so successful. Same parents, same opportunities, genetics are mysterious." My mother sighed theatrically. "Robert and I have accepted that Brionna will never." She trailed off when she recognized me standing there, no longer hidden in the bathroom as she'd believed. "Brionna," she said swiftly. "You look dry." Yes, Mother. I always keep a spare outfit handy. One of many professional habits. Her pals exchanged awkward hellos before finding urgent excuses to refill their drinks. Was humiliating me part of the wedding itinerary, or did Dad improvise that part? I asked softly. Don't be so dramatic, she snarled. You were trying to slink away, as usual. Your father simply lost patience with your antisocial behavior. Pushing your adult daughter into a fountain is not a normal response to perceived antisocial behavior. Perhaps if you had brought a date, made any effort at all to participate in your sister's happiness instead of making everything about your mysterious job and your perpetually busy schedule, things would have gone differently. I studied my mother's face, looking for any sign of the protective instinct that should have existed. There was nothing but resentment that I had interrupted her narrative. You know what's interesting, Mother? I've never once made anything about me. In fact, I've spent my entire life trying to take up as little space as possible in this family, and it still wasn't enough. A ruckus at the door drew everyone's attention. The unmistakable sound of several car doors closing in rapid succession. The appearance of two men in perfect suits, carrying out a modest security sweep. My mother frowned. What's happening? Did the Wellingtons arrange additional security without consulting us? I checked my wristwatch. Right on time, I said. The sleek black Maybach had arrived, along with two equally outstanding security vehicles. Conversations paused as attention shifted toward the entrance, witnessed by the wedding guests. Even the music felt too quiet. My heart raced, despite my outward serenity. Cashin's effect on me persisted even after 3 years of marriage. And in about 60 seconds, my family would finally meet my husband. The huge doors to the ballroom opened with authority. Evander and Dmitri were the first two security personnel to enter. I recognized their attentive eyes, scanning the room with professional competence. They wore excellent suits that couldn't quite hide their military bearing. Whispers echoed throughout the event. The bride's father approached the security personnel with an affronted attitude. "Excuse me," my father said, puffing his chest. "This is a private event. If you're looking for the corporate conference, it's in the West Wing." Evander merely gazed through him as if he were translucent. Dmitri tapped his earpiece and spoke softly. "Perimeter secure, proceeding." And then Cashin walked in. My spouse has always had a dominating presence, but tonight he seemed to fill the entire entryway. 6'2", with strong shoulders from years of swimming. He wore a custom Tom Ford suit that just exuded wealth and power. His brown hair was slightly windblown, he'd most likely come directly from the helicopter pad on the roof. His jawline could cut glass, but it was his eyes that always got me. They were intensely blue and laser-focused, scanning the room in seconds before landing on me. When they did, his solemn countenance relaxed into a private smile, intended only for me. He strode through the crowd with the assurance of someone who has never doubted his right to be anywhere. People instantly stepped aside, leaving a clear passage straight to where I stood. I was barely aware of my mother beside me, her body stiffening as she realized this enormous man was coming directly at us. Behind him, 4 additional security personnel had entered, methodically positioning themselves around the perimeter. "Brianna," Cashin began as he approached me, his voice a warm bass that reverberated through the now quiet chamber. He took my hands, stroking his thumbs on my knuckles in a secret gesture of connection. "Sorry, I'm late." "You're right on time," I said, feeling calm for the first time that day. He leaned down and kissed me. Not a public spectacle, but a sincere greeting between lovers. As he turned to face my mother, he placed a protective hand on the small of my back. "Mrs. Campbell," he said politely, but without warmth. "I'm Cashin Reed, Brianna's husband." My mother's face went through a breathtaking range of expressions, including astonishment, incredulity, calculation, and finally a strained attempt at happiness. "Husband," she said, her voice unusually high. But Brianna never mentioned. 3 years next month, Cashin answered calmly. We keep our private life private for security reasons. My father had pushed his way through the crowd and arrived by my mother's side, his face flushed with either rage or embarrassment. Possibly both. What's the meaning of this? He asked, his gaze shifting from me to Cashin. Some kind of prank? Hiring security and an actor to create a scene at your sister's wedding is a new low, Briona. Cashin's expression sharpened, almost imperceptibly. Only someone who knew him as well as I did could see the lethal glitter in his eyes. Mr. Campbell, he replied, his voice deceptively soft. I'm Cashin Reed, CEO of Reed Technologies. Your daughter and I have been married for nearly 3 years. My father's mouth opened and closed silently. Reed Technologies was a household name, a multi-billion-dollar worldwide security corporation. Even my technologically averse father would recognize it. That's not possible, he finally said. We would have known. Would you? Cashin inquired, his tone genuine and curious. When have you ever shown interest in Briona's actual life? From what I've observed today and what she's shared over the years, your interest extends only to criticizing her choices, not understanding them. My sister had now come, her white gown resembling an apparition drifting through the shocked attendees. Leander followed in her footsteps, his countenance conflicted between surprise and fascination. What's happening? Isolde demanded. Who are these people? Apparently, my mother murmured softly. Your sister has a husband. That's ridiculous, Isolde remarked. She's making it up for attention. On my wedding day. Cashin tightened his arm around my waist, not possessively, but supportively. Mrs. Wellington, congratulations on your marriage. I apologize for missing the ceremony. International business obligations kept me in Tokyo until a few hours ago. His excellent manners contrasted sharply with Isolde's harshness. She flushed uncertainly, gazing around at Cashin, the security team, and the growing number of eager wedding guests. Is this some kind of joke? My father asked, finding his voice again. You expect us to believe that Briona, our Briona, secretly married a billionaire tech CEO, said one of Leander's buddies from the back, who appeared to have Googled Cashin on his phone. Holy SH, that's really Cashin Reed. Forbes cover last month. Net worth estimated at $12 billion. A collective gasp echoed throughout the room. My mother swayed slightly, grasping for the back of a chair to support herself. I don't understand, she muttered. Why wouldn't you tell us? For the first time, her query was genuine rather than accusing. I nearly felt bad for her. When have you ever wanted to hear about my successes, Mother? I said kindly. When have you ever celebrated anything about me? As for me, Cashin continued calmly, I've been looking forward to meeting the family Briona has described so vividly. Though I admit, after witnessing your behavior today, I find myself rather. He hesitated, carefully weighing his words, disappointed. My father's face darkened. Now listen here, young man. No, Mr. Campbell, Cashin said abruptly, his voice as cold as steel. You listen. I watched from the terrace as you publicly humiliated your daughter. I saw you push her into that fountain. I heard the things you said to her. My father's face was devoid of blood. Under normal circumstances, Cashin went on, such an assault would have immediate consequences. My security team was prepared to intervene, but Briona signaled them to stand down. That's the kind of person your daughter is. Even after your despicable behavior, she didn't want to create a scene at her sister's wedding. The room had become utterly silent. Even the waiters were frozen in place. Fortunately for you, Cashin continued, my wife is a better person than I am. Because if anyone ever treated her that way again, my response would not be nearly so measured. The threat, conveyed in the most courteous manner possible, hovered in the air like storm clouds. The ballroom doors reopened at precisely that moment, as if orchestrated for maximum dramatic effect. Two people in impeccable business clothes came, their posture revealing their identities even before I saw their faces. Evander and Sophia, my most trusted bureau team members. They came with purposeful strides, stopping a reasonable distance from Cashin and me as we stood with my family. Director Campbell, Sophia stated, adopting my official title. I apologize for the interruption, but there's a situation requiring your immediate attention. The title hung in the air for a moment before the whispering began. Director? Did she say Director Campbell? What department? My father's confusion was nearly hilarious. Director of what? Some minor government office? Cashin's smile was razor-sharp. Your daughter is the youngest deputy director of counterintelligence operations in FBI history, Mr. Campbell. Her work has saved countless American lives and earned her the highest security clearance possible. More gasps and whispers. My mother looked like she was about to faint. Isolde stepped forward, her bridal glow dimmed by perplexity and dawning terror. That's impossible. Brionna is just what is? I inquired calmly. Just your disappointing older sister? Just the family scapegoat? Just the perpetual failure? She wasn't going to respond. The Brionna Campbell I know, Cashin began, his voice echoing easily across the silent room, is brilliant, courageous, and formidable. She has the respect of hardened field agents and government officials alike. She makes daily decisions that affect national security. He turned and looked directly at my father. And for some inexplicable reason, she still cared enough about your approval to attend this wedding, despite knowing exactly how you would treat her. My father appeared to have aged 10 years in the last 5 minutes. The confident, bullying attorney had departed, leaving behind a perplexed, elderly man struggling to reconcile his lifelong story with this new reality. Why didn't you tell us? He inquired, his voice as low as I had ever heard it. Would you have believed me? I said simply. Or would you have found a way to reduce this as well? His silence provided an adequate response. Evander approached with a protected tablet. Director, I hate to press, but we need your authorization on this operation. I grabbed the tablet, scanned the material, and made a hasty choice. Proceed with option 2, but increase surveillance on the secondary target. I'll call in for the full briefing in 20 minutes. Yes, ma'am, Evander said, handing the tablet back. The professional discussion took seconds, but the impact on the room was seismic. This was not play acting. This wasn't some sophisticated ruse. This was genuine authority and responsibility, which I wielded with casual assurance. Cashin checked his watch. We should go. The chopper is waiting, and the Tokyo crew is ready for the video conference at 9 o'clock. I nodded and turned to face my startled family one final time. Congratulations on your wedding, Isolde. I wish you and Leander all happiness. My sister appeared unable to speak. Leander, to his credit, stepped up and extended his hand to Cashin. It was an honor to meet you, Mr. Reed and Director Campbell. I hope we can get to know each other better in the future. His genuineness was unexpected and quite heartwarming. I shook his hand warmly. I'd enjoy that, Leander. My parents stayed frozen. Decades of well-crafted story lay in shambles around them. Cashin addressed Mr. and Mrs. Campbell with exemplary civility. Thank you for this invitation. I sincerely apologize for missing the ceremony. My father finally found his voice. Brionna, wait. We need to discuss this. We are your parents. We've always wanted the best for you. We have always been proud of you. The open attempt to change history may have worked in the past. Not today. No, Dad, I said gently. You have not. But that's fine. I don't need you to be proud of me anymore. With that, Cashin and I turned and walked out of the ballroom, my security team forming around us. Behind us, whispering had turned into full-throated exclamations. The Campbell family would never be the same. And neither would I. The sleek black helicopter waited on the Fairmont's rooftop helipad, its blades already starting their slow rotation. As we approached, escorted by security, I sensed a strange lightness. Decades of family baggage appeared to have vanished in that ballroom, leaving only my parents' broken illusions. "Are you okay?" Cashin said, his mouth close enough to my ear to be heard above the rising rotor noise. Surprisingly, I said, better than okay. Sophia approached us before we could board, looking apprehensive. "Director, there's been a development. The ambassador is requesting your presence at the embassy immediately." The surveillance package picked up anomalous signals. Cashin gave me a concerned look. This was not part of the evening's script. "Is it real, or performance art?" I asked gently. "Unfortunately, real," she answered. "Evander has already started communicating with the field team. Time sensitive." I nodded, totally entering professional mode. "Route the helicopter to the embassy. Alert the duty analyst team. I want a comprehensive briefing when I arrive." Sophia affirmed that everything had already been done. Cashin touched my arm. "Go. I will meet you there." This smooth adaptability to catastrophe was the foundation of our marriage. Two high-powered careers may clash with personal goals. The difference was that we supported, not disliked, each other's obligations. As we returned to the roof access door, intending to descend and escape by the hotel's private security gate, our path was barred. My mother stood there, slightly winded after seemingly rushing up several flights of stairs. Her perfect coiffure had faded slightly, and even her flawless makeup couldn't conceal her sorrow. "Brionna," she murmured, her voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "You cannot just leave like this. We need to talk." I glanced at Sophia, who nodded subtly, and walked aside to allow us some privacy. "I have a job emergency, Mom. National security does not wait for family reunification." "National security?" she repeated, as if for the first time. "You truly are what they said? A director at the FBI and deputy director of counterintelligence operations?" I confirmed, for the last 18 months. Before that, I was the assistant director for 3 years. She appeared to be attempting to reconcile this information with her long-held perception of me. "But why the secrecy? Why not tell us? We'd have been proud." I finished for her, "Wouldn't you? Or could you have discovered a way to reduce it? Compare it negatively to Isolde's accomplishments? I believe I obtained the job through connections rather than competence." Her flinch indicated that I had struck the mark. "And the marriage," she pressed. 3 years, he said. 3 years. And you never mentioned your marriage to one of the country's wealthiest men." I noticed she emphasized Cashin's wealth over any of his other exceptional features. Even today, status was her main preoccupation. "Our marriage is private for several reasons." As I painstakingly explained, Cashin's location makes him a potential target. "My job entails classified work. And to be honest, I wanted something in my life that was not susceptible to the Campbell family scrutiny." The chopper pilot indicated that we needed to depart. Time was running out. "I have to leave," I said. "There is a legitimate national security scenario brewing." "Will you come back?" she inquired. And for the first time in my adult life, I detected true hesitation in her voice. A desire to converse and get to know me. The question astonished me. I scrutinized her face, searching for the manipulative mother I'd known my entire life. Instead, I saw perplexity, hurt, and possibly a dawning knowledge of what she had missed. "I'm not sure," I answered honestly. "That depends on whether you want to know the real me, or just the successful one that now has your approval." She had no quick reaction to that. "Think about it," I advised. "Consider whether you want a relationship based on who I am, rather than who you wish I were. I turned to leave, but her voice interrupted me once more. Your father would never accept it, she added gently. But he was mistaken today. He did something unforgivable. It wasn't an apology, but it was more acknowledgement than I'd ever had. Thank you for saying that, I said. I need to go. As Cashin and I boarded the chopper, I looked back to see my mother still standing there, a small figure against the expanse of the Boston cityscape. For the first time, I saw her not as the terrifying matriarch of my youth, but as a woman who had built her entire identity on appearances and social standing, and was now facing the breakdown of her carefully maintained illusions. I had an unexpected feeling of compassion. The embassy scenario turned out to be legitimate but controllable, with encrypted messages indicating a potential security breach, which my team successfully resolved within 2 hours. By 11 p.m., Cashin and I were alone in our penthouse, overlooking the Charles River. Some wedding, he said, removing his tie as we stood on the terrace. The city lights reflected on the river, producing a tapestry of sparkling patterns. Not quite how I had planned to introduce you to the family, I conceded, taking off my shoes. I thought it went rather well, actually, he added with a faint smile. The look on your father's face when Evander called you director was worth the price of admission. I laughed despite myself. That was rather satisfying. Your mother followed you to the roof, he told me. That seems significant. I'm not sure what it means yet, I said. Honestly, 32 years of patterns don't change in an afternoon. No, he agreed. But revelations can sometimes create opportunities for change. He softly drew me into his arms. Whatever you decide about your family, I'm with you. If you want to explore reconciliation, I'll support that. If you want to maintain distance, I'll support that, too. This was what true love felt like. Not the conditional acceptance I had been seeking from my family for decades, but unwavering support regardless of my decisions. Did you see Leander's face when he realized who you were? I inquired, shifting the conversation. I think he was mentally calculating how to get you to invest in his hedge fund. Cashin laughed. He seemed like the only decent one in the bunch. Recognized your title immediately and showed appropriate respect. I noticed that too, I admitted. Maybe Isolde made a better choice than I gave her credit for. My phone vibrated with an incoming text. I expected it to be work-related, but instead I saw my cousin Maris's name. OMG, the family is in utter collapse since you left. Your father keeps claiming there must be an error. Your mom is unusually silent. Isolde has shut herself inside the bridal suite. Also, I googled your hubby and holy crap. Also, I'm sorry they treated you so poorly all these years. Have a drink sometime. Signed, your new favorite cousin. I showed Cashin the note, and he raised an eyebrow. New favorite cousin. She was kind to me after the fountain incident, I stated. Before you arrived. Offered me a spare dress, helped me avoid the crowd. Small kindness, but it stood out. Sometimes allies come from unexpected places, he noted. Over the next hour, my phone filled up with messages from family members who had never called me before. Distant relatives unexpectedly recalled my birthday. Second cousins asked about lunch dates. My father sent a stiffly formal text message requesting that we discuss recent developments at your earliest convenience. I hushed the phone and laid it aside. Those reactions can wait. They're not reaching out to me, I told Cashin as we got ready for bed. They're reaching out to Director Campbell. Wife of billionaire Cashin Reed, not to the person I actually am. Does that surprise you? He inquired gently. No, I conceded. But it does help clarify things. As I drifted off to sleep in the comfort of our home, I realized that the events of the day had not provided me with a family. I'd had one all along. Cashin, my trusty bureau team, and friends that valued me for who I am. The family I selected over the one I was born into. And as I discovered, it made all the difference. 3 weeks after my sister's wedding, Cashin and I sat in our favorite nook of Thinking Cup Cafe on Newberry Street. Despite our combined net worth and prominence, we relished these brief moments of normalcy. Nice coffee, calm discussion, and people watching in an environment where we were not immediately recognized. "Your mother called again yesterday," Cashin explained, swirling his Americano. "That's the third time this week." I nodded as passers-by hurried past the window. The Boston fall had painted the trees on Commonwealth Avenue in vivid reds and golds. She left another voicemail. Invited us to Sunday dinner. "Are you thinking about it?" His tone was indifferent, neither encouraging nor discouraging. "I'm not sure," I confessed. Part of me thinks it's calculated distance, still processing her displacement from the family spotlight. But there were moments, brief, tentative moments of something like genuine connection. My father posed intelligent questions concerning a recent cybersecurity project Cashin's organization had launched for federal entities. My mother brought a box of my childhood accomplishments, which she seemed to have preserved all these years: debate trophies, scholastic accolades, and scientific competition medals. Evidence that she may have recognized more than she realized. Most shocking was Isolde's desire for a private conversation after supper. My sister struggled visibly in the garden where we had played as children, with words that did not come easy to her. "I didn't know," she finally said, "about your job, husband, or life." "You never asked," I remarked, not unkindly. "I know." She nervously twisted her wedding ring. I think I liked being the favorite. It was easier not to question it. Her candor was unexpected. "Leander says I need to examine why I felt threatened by your success," she told me, making a vague gesture that included my work, marriage, and position. "He thinks we could both benefit from family therapy." I stared at my sister intently, probably for the first time in years. Behind the beautiful facade, I saw uncertainty and uneasiness. Even the golden child status comes with its own set of difficulties and unreasonable expectations. "I'll think about that," I responded cautiously. "Not immediately, but eventually." It wasn't really forgiveness, but it was an opening. There was a slight break in the fortress walls I had created around my heart when it came to family. The months that followed saw gradual and imprecise improvement. Weekly family dinners progressively became less stressful. My parents learned to respect the boundaries I set. My father initially resisted anger management therapy but eventually became more self-aware. My mother and I began tentative mother-daughter trips, which alternated between stress and genuine laughter. Healing was not a linear process. There were setbacks, instances when old patterns resurfaced, such as my father's rage or my mother's criticism. However, accountability was introduced for the first time. A readiness to accept responsibility for harm and make efforts to remedy it. However, the most profound change occurred within myself rather than in my family. I no longer based my worth on their acceptance. I no longer downplayed my accomplishments to make people comfortable. I could no longer accept disrespect as the price of membership. 1 year after the infamous wedding, Cashin and I had a party at our house. Not just immediate relatives, but the people who had built my support system over the years, my FBI colleagues, Cashin's sister and her family, friends who had stood by me, Maris and her new boyfriend, and even a few extended family members who had expressed genuine interest and connection. As I glanced around at this eclectic gathering, this chosen family interlaced with biological connections, I realized something deep. Family is more than just shared DNA. It's about who shows up, who sees you plainly and still loves you, who celebrates your accomplishments without envy, and supports you through mistakes without judgment. Sometimes those folks are in your bloodline. Often, they are not. The magic happens when you stop imposing connections where they don't naturally exist and instead cultivate those that bring mutual joy and growth. Standing in our kitchen, prepared to serve dessert, I felt Cashin's arms embrace me from behind. "Happy?" he inquired simply. I snuggled into his arms, gazing through the doorway as my father talked animatedly with Evander about fishing strategies. And my mother showed Maris images from her phone. And Isolde let out a melodious laugh in response to what Leander said. Not perfect yet, difficult, but authentic in ways it had never been before. Yes, I responded sincerely. I am. If you're watching this and have dealt with toxic family relationships, I want you to know that your worth isn't defined by people who don't recognize it. Setting limits is not selfish, it is vital for healing. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to create space until true transformation comes. Have you seen family relationships improve after setting clear boundaries? Or have you found peace by starting your own chosen family instead? Tell me what you think, I really want to know. Please share your stories in the comments section below. Your experience could be just what another viewer needs to hear. S.